Welcome, Adam Suerte. I want to tell you a little bit about Adam Suerte and how we first met. Although Adam Suerte and I are both neighborhood people, I actually did not meet Adam until we were trying to put together this neighborhood graduation at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, because there were a lot of high school graduations that were all going virtual, and we didn't like that. We wanted something live for our kids. So I tried to get a bunch of neighborhood people together and see how we could do this. And Adam Suerte decided that he would be a great help because he designed this amazing diploma for our kids. And we were able to do this live graduation ceremony as socially distant as we could in the middle of Wyckoff Street. Everybody was really thrilled that they were getting this neighborhood diploma. So thank you for that and for being a neighborhood mensch. And I just wanted to talk to you about what you do and how you do it. How did you get to where you are? What made you decide that you wanted to be an artist in the first place?
I've been drawing for as long as I can remember, ever since I was very little. I guess one of my earliest experiences or memories with art instruction would be that my mother on weekends would take me to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and would drop me off. I guess they had a kids program where it was straight up crayons, and then she'd go see the museum for a couple hours, and I would just draw. And I don't know, 5, 6. My mother was always very supportive of my art. I tried anything from tap and jazz at the Albee School down the block from me, or piano or guitar or anything, but art was really the only thing I ever really felt compelled like practice and do on my own, aside from any kind of instruction. So it's really the only thing I would put my own spare time into because I really enjoyed it and just loved exploring. So for as long as I can remember, my mother, as I was in junior high school, told me I was going to music and art. She made that plan for me. I did not have a choice. I was at the Music and Art High School, which is now LaGuardia, where I started to realize that I can certainly turn this into a career.
So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your growing up, your neighborhood. You were in Cobble Hill, and how you've seen the neighborhood change. When you were a kid, did you play street games?
The first thing that would come to mind as far as changing is that there's a lot more cars. When I was growing up, we would play in the street all day long. Looking out the window every now and then, so we were okay, but there weren't a lot of cars coming down the block or parks. I would say would be football or Banza, which is kind of a every man for themselves dodgeball type game.
Okay.
And we played roller hockey. We were the Tompkins Place Rangers. And we'd practice, and we had a net, and we'd play in the street, and someone sees a car turning down from the garage, and everybody would yell, car, and then we'd take the net, bring it aside, and we'd play other blocks. We'd play Cane Street Kids, or we'd actually go all the way into Cobble Hill Park when it was a little more wide open, and we could play a nice game in there. As far as street games, hide and go seek, we would play in Cobble Hill Park when there was kind of more shrubbery, and there's like a lot of overgrownness in Cobble Hill Park that doesn't exist today. Those are games, and then skateboarding and bicycling and.
No, so I grew up on Atlantic Avenue, so there was no street games.
No.
I had to go to my friends, Dean Street. But for people who don't know, Tompkins Place is a couple blocks long, but there's no cross streets. So you really were able to do that. There's a few streets like that in Cobble Hill, which
it's just 1 block long.
It's pretty special.
I would say some other things that would change. I felt there was more sense of a community. There were more block associations where people would get together in person and talk about issues that affected the direct surroundings. Block parties, there's still some, there really were a lot more kind of getting to know your neighbors and stuff. And now No, if you have concern, you go on Nextdoor online or the neighborhood Facebook page. And there's a little bit less coming together in person. There's a little bit less hanging out on the street for the kids, which will bring parents out into having discussions with other parents. It's just so dense with people now. It's hard to make a community of a block.
You really need to have more of a concerted effort. It can happen. It's just,
and it
really
does. There are
have to
some
work
blocks.
at it.
Yeah, there are some blocks that do. They have their yearly block parties. They do have the block association, even if they do it online. Blocks that have an email list of everyone on the block. Watch out! I see this happening. Keep everybody on their toes. It's few and far between.
I'm just wondering if you feel like Brooklyn or the neighborhoods or New York City in general, what influences your art? And is it neighborhoods or is it Brooklyn or is it totally something else?
If I guess anyone who hasn't seen my art, you might ask, does anything other than Brooklyn and the city influence my art? Because I would say most of my artwork is based around the city being my muse, Brooklyn specifically. But if I work in many different mediums, you see some of my paintings of specific places in Brooklyn. You know, I always say that I tried to paint a part of Brooklyn. It's something that I've walked through many times already. I've been in that painting so much that I want to capture it. A lot of things that have disappeared that aren't there anymore, wanted to capture. But then with my more graphic work, it's more of a generalized urban iconography where you're just looking, where it's just like plays on lampposts with sneakers hanging and fire hydrants and subway cars and nothing too specific, just the idea of icons of living in the city. You know, and my tattoo work, I'm pretty much known for doing cityscape stuff, especially memorializing places in Brooklyn. A huge part of my work is the fact that I love New York, especially Brooklyn, and I like depicting it and celebrating it. You know, I'm very happy to live here most of my life. It's a lot of fun to continually, in various mediums, celebrate what you love.
Excellent. Are you at home now? Are you in your studio? And what is the painting behind you?
Right now I'm home. The kids at parent teacher conference, so they're absconded in their little areas. But the painting behind me it's the Brooklyn House of Detention. I actually did that 20 years ago. I did that in 2001. I'll show you some work a little later. It has gotten a lot tighter, and I've kind of lost the drippy effects that I used to like. Drug over through my graffiti days. It's a big one, and we dig it in the kitchen.
That's so much a part of our neighborhood, even though it was totally separate. But whenever we told people coming in from Manhattan how to get to our house, just come through the Brooklyn Bridge and then you want to turn left at the House of Detention, 5 blocks away. That's us.
Absolutely.
It was a landmark.
The other way around, when we tattoo people who are from out of town, you're so close to the Brooklyn Bridge. When you're done, you should take a walk over the bridge. You got to do it. Like, all right, how do you get there? And it's like, you hit the end of Smith, take a left, and then you take a right on the jail, I also remember the Atlantic Annex when we were really little would have their little setup there, and they would have diagram of shanks and different that were happening in the jail, and it would be this ominous kind of scary, be careful or you end up here. Or other times where you can actually hear them on the roof and on the basketball court area, yelling down. They see people and they're reaching out to people who are
actually free, since you brought up the Antic to me was always the holiday of the neighborhood. I grew up on the Avenue. That was like our holiday. And for people who don't know the Atlantic Antic, I still think it's the best street fair in New York City. And it's just one day. But at the beginning, when we were little kids, they actually had a parade. Do you remember the parade?
I remember the parade, and I remember like the marathon, the little marathon where
Yeah.
you get the numbers to put on your chest. Yeah, no, absolutely.